Welcome to the deep dive. This time we're going to be taking a look at the Project Management Institute's Business Analysis for Practitioners, a practice guide.
Yeah, think of this deep dive as like a cheat sheet for how organizations can, tackle big changes and make them happen.
I like that, a cheat sheet for success. And you know me, I love a good roadmap, and this guide actually lays out a pretty clear path.
Right. It breaks the whole business analysis thing down into like 5 key areas: needs assessment, business analysis planning, elicitation and analysis.
Traceability and monitoring.
Yeah, and solution evaluation.
So it's like a journey. We start by figuring out what needs to change, and then we make a plan to do it.
Exactly. Then it's all about like gathering information, analyzing the situation, making sense of it all.
Making sure everything stays connected and on track.
Right. And then finally, like after we've done all that, we look back and see like, did it actually work? Did we get the results we wanted?
I like it. A step-by-step guide to making things happen. All right, let's jump right into that first step, shall we? Domain 1, needs assessment.
Okay, so needs assessment. This is where we we kind of put on our detective hats and figure out what's really going on. Like imagine your company's sales are down, or maybe customer complaints are piling up.
Yeah, you don't just want to jump to a solution, right? You got to understand why it's happening in the first place.
Exactly. Got to unearth that root cause, as the guide puts it. That's the foundation for making any real change.
Right. Treating the symptom won't cure the disease, as they say. And the guide actually gives us some pretty cool tools to do that. Like, have you ever used the 5 whys technique?
Oh yeah, the 5 whys, it's surprisingly powerful. Just keep asking why until you kind of peel back all those layers and get to the heart of the problem.
It's like peeling an onion.
Yeah, exactly. Like peeling an onion. Sometimes it can feel like you're interrogating somebody, but in a good way.
I like that. And the guide also talks about these visual tools like fishbone diagrams.
Oh, fishbone diagrams. They're great for like brainstorming and visualizing the problem. You literally draw a fishbone with the problem at the head and then branch out to explore all those contributing factors.
And they even have this really cool example in the guide, about this insurance company struggling with like slow claim processing times.
Right, right. They use a fishbone diagram to kind of uncover all those bottlenecks, like, maybe their technology was outdated or they had a really clunky approval process.
It's amazing what you can discover when you take a step back and actually look at the big picture, right?
Absolutely.
So, okay, we've diagnosed the problem. Now, how do we actually move forward? That's where domain 2, business analysis planning, comes in.
Yeah, business analysis planning. This is where we create that roadmap to success.
It's about setting clear goals, defining roles and responsibilities, making sure everyone's on the same page.
Exactly. Think of it like outlining your battle plan before you go into the fray.
I like that. And I also like how the guide emphasizes stakeholder management. It's a good reminder that change doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? We need to get everyone on board.
Yeah, for sure. Stakeholders, they can have very different perspectives, levels of influence, and understanding their needs and concerns is key.
So it's like a pre-game analysis. You need to know who's on the field and what their strengths and weaknesses are.
Right. Understanding your stakeholders, it helps you, anticipate potential roadblocks, and create a plan that actually addresses their needs. It's about building that consensus.
Okay, speaking of moving, let's shift gears to domain 3. Elicitation and analysis. This is where we gather all those crucial requirements.
Yeah, it's like mining for gold. We need to dig deep to uncover all those requirements that will shape our solution.
And the guy highlights a bunch of different techniques they can use, right? We've got interviews, workshops, document analysis, even surveys.
Oh yeah, and even observation.
Oh, right, observation. That's like going undercover, isn't it?
It is. You can learn so much just by watching how people actually work. It's not just about what they tell you, it's about what they actually do.
I bet. So let's say we've done all that, right? We've conducted our interviews, facilitated workshops, pored over documents, maybe even done some undercover observation. We've got mountains of notes and data. What happens next?
Well, then we have to make sense of it all, right? We analyze the data, identify patterns, and start to see those key requirements emerge.
It's like panning for gold.
Yeah, exactly.
And the guide, it emphasizes that modeling is a big part of this process,
Oh,
right?
oh, absolutely.
We take all those raw insights and turn them into these visual representations, these models.
Right. We might use process flows to map out how things work, or use case diagrams to understand those user interactions.
And data models to organize all that information.
Exactly. It's about creating a shared understanding, of the problem, of the potential solutions.
Like we're building a blueprint, right?
Yeah, a blueprint for our solution.
Okay, so we've got our requirements all nice and organized. We've built our models. We're feeling pretty good. But the project's not over yet, is it?
Not quite. We still need to make sure all our hard work doesn't fall apart as the project moves forward, and that's where domain 4 traceability and monitoring comes in.
All right, another analogy.
Maybe. Think of it like building a bridge from the problem to the solution. Traceability, that's about making sure each requirement is firmly anchored to a specific business need.
We don't want any pieces of that bridge floating off on their own, right?
Right, exactly. And to keep track of all those connections, the guide recommends using a traceability matrix.
The spreadsheet on steroids?
That's the one.
Okay. So we're not just documenting things for documentation's sake.
No, no, no.
We're actually managing those connections throughout the whole project.
Exactly. And monitoring goes hand in hand with traceability, right? Because requirements, they're not static. They can change as the project moves forward.
So we need to be able to adapt.
Right. Manage those changes and keep everything on track.
Okay, I'm getting it. So it's like like we're conducting an orchestra, right? We need to make sure all the instruments are playing together in harmony.
I like that. Now imagine the orchestra has delivered a stunning performance. The audience is on their feet, they're cheering. That's kind of what it feels like when we reach Domain 5, solution evaluation. But even after the final note is played, our work isn't done, is it?
Right. We need to know if all that cheering is actually warranted. Did our solution actually deliver what we promised?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so more to come on that, but first we need to take a quick break. Stay with us.
Welcome back to our deep dive into all things business analysis.
We're picking up right where we left off with Domain 1, needs assessment. Putting on the detective hats and really digging deep into the problem at hand.
Yeah, exactly. Before we even think about solutions, we need to really, really understand the business need inside and out.
It's like a doctor diagnosing a patient, right?
Right.
Before they prescribe any medication, you wouldn't just hand out antibiotics without knowing what's causing the illness.
Exactly. We need all the vital signs, the data, the context, the stakeholder perspectives.
Right, right. Speaking of stakeholders, the guide emphasizes identifying those right from the start. What's the best way to approach that?
Well, stakeholders are basically anyone who's affected by the problem or the potential solution.
Okay.
Think customers, employees, even other departments within the organization. They all bring a unique perspective to the table, and understanding their needs, their concerns, and even their levels of influence. It's crucial.
So how do we actually go about identifying all these stakeholders? It sounds like it could get pretty complex.
It can. The guys suggest some practical techniques like brainstorming sessions, or even just reviewing those organizational charts. You can also think about, who is impacted by the problem, who has the authority to make decisions,
Right.
and who will ultimately be involved in implementing the solution.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got our list of stakeholders. Now, how do we figure out what information we need from them? Because they can't all be equally important, can they?
You're right. You're right. And that's where defining the problem or the opportunity really comes in. The guide calls this crafting a situation statement. It's basically a concise summary that captures the essence of what's going on.
Can you give me an example of that?
Yeah, sure. Let's say our problem is long customer service call wait times.
Okay.
So your situation statement might be something like, customers are experiencing excessive wait times when calling for support, leading to frustration and potentially even lost business.
Got it.
Short, sweet, and it sets the stage for everything that follows.
I see. It helps you kind of focus your investigation, right?
Exactly.
So once we have our situation statement, then we need to start digging for those root causes. What are some effective ways to do that?
Well, the guide recommends tools like the 5 whys technique and those fishbone diagrams. They're surprisingly simple, but they can be incredibly effective at uncovering those hidden pain points that are driving the problem.
I remember you mentioning the 5 whys earlier. It sounds almost too simple. Do you really just keep asking why?
You do.
Okay.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion.
Right.
You start with the problem and you just keep asking why until you get to the core issue.
I like that. Okay, I have to try that one. And what about those fishbone diagrams? What makes them so useful?
They're great for visually mapping out all the potential causes of a problem and seeing how they connect. You literally draw a fishbone with the problem at the head and then branch out to explore all those contributing factors. It's a great way to brainstorm as a team and make sure you're considering all angles.
Right, and they actually use that insurance company example again, to illustrate how that works. The one with the slow claim processing.
Yeah, yeah, they use a fishbone diagram to identify, several root causes, including limited staff, outdated technology, and that cumbersome approval process that we talked about.
It's amazing how a simple visual can really help you see things that you might have missed otherwise. So once we've identified those root causes, what's next?
Well, then we need to kind of shift our focus to the organization's current capabilities. What are they already good at? Where do they have room to grow?
So it's like taking inventory of their strengths and weaknesses, right? How do we go about doing that?
The guide suggests using process flows to analyze existing processes and pinpoint any potential bottlenecks or areas for improvement.
Process flows. Those are like those flow charts I vaguely remember from school.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
They visually map out how things work step by step,
Right.
and they can reveal inefficiencies or areas where automation could make a big difference.
Okay, that makes sense. So by combining our understanding of the problem and the organization's current capabilities, we can start to see those capability gaps you mentioned earlier,
Right.
the areas where they need to improve.
Exactly. And those gaps, they help us, define what the to-be state should look like,
Okay.
what the organization needs to be able to do, to solve the problem or seize the opportunity. It's like comparing before and after pictures.
Oh, I like that. Okay, I'm starting to see how this all comes together. But before we get too focused on solutions, you mentioned something called benchmarking earlier. Can you explain what that is and why it's important?
Yeah, benchmarking is basically looking outside the organization to see how others are tackling similar challenges. It's about, learning from the best, seeing what's working, in your industry, maybe even in other sectors.
So it's like peeking over the fence to see what your neighbors are doing.
Yeah, exactly. And the guide, it points out that benchmarking can be especially valuable in those competitive situations. So let's say our insurance company, they discover that a competitor is using AI to automate parts of their claims processing. Well, that might inspire them to consider AI as a solution too.
So it's like getting a glimpse into the future of your industry, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Benchmarking, it helps broaden those horizons and consider solutions that we might not have thought of otherwise. And it can also give us a realistic sense of, what's possible and what it might take to achieve similar results.
Right, right. So now we have this deep understanding of the problem, the root causes, the organization's capabilities, even what the competition is doing. What happens next? Do we jump into brainstorming solutions?
Not quite yet.
Okay.
We need to take a step back and evaluate those potential solutions, against our needs and feasibility constraints.
Right.
It's about making sure that we're recommending the most viable option.
Okay, that makes sense. What are some of the key factors we need to consider when we're evaluating these solutions?
Well, first we got to think about operational feasibility. How well does the potential solution fit within the organization's current operations? Will it integrate seamlessly or will it require like major changes? We also need to think about whether the organization has the capacity, to implement and sustain the change.
So it's not just about finding a brilliant solution. It has to be something the organization can actually use.
Absolutely. And then there's technological feasibility. Can the solution be implemented using the organization's existing technology?
Okay.
Or will they have to, invest in new hardware or software? We got to make sure the solution is technologically achievable, within their current infrastructure.
Right, right. And of course, we can't forget about the all-important cost effectiveness.
Oh yeah, cost effectiveness. This is where we look at the financial viability of the solution. Does the potential return on investment, does it justify the cost of implementation? Are there less expensive alternatives that could achieve similar results?
Right.
It's all about weighing those benefits, against the financial burden.
Okay, so we're looking for a solution that's practical, technologically feasible, cost effective. Anything else we need to consider?
Yeah, we got to consider time feasibility.
Okay.
Can the solution be implemented, within the desired time frame?
Right.
Sometimes a phase approach might be necessary, especially for larger, more complex solutions.
Right.
You don't want to overwhelm the organization with too much change all at once.
That's a great point. So we're evaluating solutions based on, their operational fit, technological feasibility, cost effectiveness, and how quickly they can actually be implemented.
Exactly. It's a multifaceted assessment, but but it ensures that we're recommending a solution that's not just a good idea, but a good fit for the organization.
Now, I'm guessing there's rarely just one perfect solution.
You're right, and that's why the guide it emphasizes presenting alternative options. We need to give those decision makers a range of choices, each with their own pros and cons so they can make an informed decision.
Okay. I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together. We've identified the problem, analyzed the root causes, assessed capabilities, even looked at potential solutions. But we're not done yet, are we? What happens after we've evaluated those potential solutions?
That's where we kind of shift from analysis to persuasion. We need to package all this valuable information into a compelling business case. Basically a document that clearly articulates the problem, the proposed solution, and the benefits of moving forward. It's our opportunity to, sell the solution, secure those resources that we need to make it happen.
Sounds like we need to put on our marketing hats.
A little bit, a little bit.
What are the key elements of a strong business case?
Well, first and foremost, it needs to paint a vivid picture of the problem and its impact on the organization. We need to highlight the pain points, the potential consequences of inaction, and the urgency of addressing the issue.
So it's not just about presenting data, it's about telling a story, right?
Exactly. We got to make them feel the urgency. Then we present our recommended solution and explain how it, directly addresses those pain points. We highlight its feasibility, its alignment with organizational goals, and crucially, its potential return on investment.
So it's like a sales pitch, but backed by data and analysis.
Exactly. And we also need to be transparent about any potential risks or challenges, associated with the solution. We don't want any surprises down the road. So we lay out those potential hurdles and explain how we plan to, mitigate them.
That makes sense. It builds trust
Right.
and shows that you've really thought things through. Anything else?
Yeah, the final piece is a clear implementation plan.
Okay.
We outline timelines, resources needed, key milestones, and who's responsible for what. This shows those decision makers that we have a roadmap for success.
So the business case is really the culmination of all our hard work in the needs assessment phase. It's our chance to showcase our analysis, our insights, and make a compelling argument for change.
You got it. And once that business case is approved, we can finally move on to the next stage of our journey, business analysis planning.
Which, of course, is where we'll be heading next. Welcome back. All right, it's time to roll up our sleeves and actually, make this change happen.
Yeah, we've laid the groundwork with needs assessment and business analysis planning, and now we're moving into domain 3, elicitation and analysis. This is where we gather all those, all important requirements that will shape our solution.
I always think of requirements like puzzle pieces. You need all the right ones to create that complete picture.
I like that, the puzzle analogy. And just like with a puzzle, there are different ways to find those missing pieces. The guide gives us a whole toolbox of elicitation techniques, interviews, workshops, document analysis. They each have their strengths and depending on the project and the type of information we need.
It's almost like being a detective, gathering clues from different sources.
Right. Interviews, they're great for those in-depth conversations. Workshops are perfect for brainstorming, generating ideas as a group. And then document analysis, that can be incredibly valuable for tapping into existing knowledge and data.
And the guide even mentions observation as an elicitation technique.
Oh, yeah.
It's like going undercover to see how people really work instead of just relying on what they tell you.
Observation can be so revealing. You pick up on things that people might not even be aware of themselves. Unspoken processes, workarounds, pain points. It really adds a whole new dimension to your understanding.
I bet. So let's say we've done all that. We've conducted interviews, facilitated workshops, pored over documents, maybe even done some stealthy observing. We've got mountains of information notes, diagrams, transcripts. What happens next?
Well, now the real detective work begins. We have to sift through all that information, analyze it, identify those patterns, and that's where we start to see those key requirements emerge.
Like panning for gold.
Right.
Looking for those nuggets of insight.
Yes. And the guide, it emphasizes that modeling is a crucial part of this process. We take those raw insights and translate them into visual representations.
So those process flows, use case diagrams, we talked about those earlier.
Yeah, exactly. Those models, they help us communicate complex information clearly, spot potential gaps, inconsistencies, and they create a shared understanding.
Like blueprints, right?
Blueprints, exactly.
Essential before you start building anything. Okay, so we've got our requirements all nice and organized. We built our models. We're feeling pretty confident, but the project's not over yet, is it?
Not quite. We still need to make sure all our hard work doesn't, fall apart as the project keeps moving forward, and that's where domain 4 comes in. Traceability and monitoring. It's about making sure everything stays connected and on track.
Okay, another analogy going.
You know me so well. Think of it like building a bridge, from the problem to the solution. Traceability is about making sure each requirement is firmly anchored to a specific business need.
We don't want any pieces of that bridge floating off on their own.
No, we don't. And to keep track of all those connections, the guide recommends using a traceability matrix.
Our spreadsheet on steroids?
That's it.
Okay, okay.
So we're not just documenting things for documentation's sake. We're actually managing those connections throughout the entire project lifecycle.
And monitoring, that goes hand in hand with traceability, right?
Oh, absolutely. Because requirements, they're not static, they can change.
Right. As the project moves forward, you need to be able to adapt.
Adapt, manage those changes, keep everything moving in the right direction.
So it's like, I don't know, it's like we're conducting an orchestra, right? We need to make sure all the instruments are playing in harmony to create, beautiful music.
I love that analogy. Now, imagine that orchestra. They've delivered this stunning performance. The audience is on their feet. They're applauding wildly. That's kind of what it feels like when we reach Domain 5, solution evaluation. But even after that final note is played, our work isn't done.
Right. We need to know if all that applause is warranted, right? Did we actually deliver what we promised?
Exactly. Solution evaluation is about measuring success, identifying areas or improvement, and making sure we're delivering real value to the organization. Remember those KPIs that we carefully defined way back in needs assessment? Well, they come back into play here, helping us track progress and measure those key outcomes, things like customer satisfaction, operational efficiency, the impact on the bottom line.
It's like we're checking our homework, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Did we get the answers right? Did we meet our objective?
And if things aren't perfect, that's okay. Evaluation helps us learn, refine our approach, make adjustments for even greater success in the future. It's all about continuous improvement.
So we've come full circle, right? From identifying that problem, analyzing those needs, to developing a solution and evaluating its impact. It's a comprehensive process.
It is. And what I love about this business analysis for practitioners guide is that it breaks down this complex process into, manageable steps, providing those practical tools and techniques that anyone can use.
Absolutely. Whether you're, a seasoned business analyst or just starting out, this guide is a fantastic resource for understanding how powerful business analysis can be and how it can help you tackle even those most challenging problems.
Couldn't agree more.
So there you have it, a whirlwind tour of the 5 domains of business analysis.
We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the world of strategic change and that you've gleaned some valuable insights that you can, apply to your own work.
Remember, business analysis is about asking the right questions, gathering the right information, and using that knowledge to create those solutions that deliver real results.
And don't forget, we're always here to help you dive even deeper. Until next time.